Okay. In which case, we'll go to the final speaker for this session, who we can see here, Adebowale Owoseni. I don't know, you're presenting for the group.
Yes, please.
And we'll be talking about rethinking methods and small business research in Africa.
Thank you very much, Sam. Yes, I know that I've got very limited time, so I'll be very fast about it. Let's see.
Right. I will tell you when you've had 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then we'll take it from there. Are you able to share your screen?
Yes, I'm trying to do that now. Share my screen. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, it's coming. Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. And welcome everyone again. And I'm pleased to be here. My name is Adebowale Owoseni. I'm a senior lecturer in information system from De Montfort University. And together with my colleagues, Adedamola Tolani from Abzo, Nigeria, and Zaid Mohamed from YDS, Nigeria, I'll be speaking about rethinking methods and ethics of small business research in Africa. For some reasons, my colleagues are not here, so I'll be making this presentation on their behalf. And so the context, this conversation today mainly is about lessons learned from Active DT project. And Active DT simply means Pandemic Motivated Digital Transformation Project. And the idea was to make sense of how small businesses or micro businesses in Nigeria digitally transform during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we all know that one thing that we saw that was obvious during the pandemic is the increased use of digital technology, especially from the business perspective. So when we're talking about small and micro businesses now, our persona of what that construct mean is simply speaking about businesses that are within stage 2 and 3 of small business development stage as given by Churchill and Lewis in this framework. So these small businesses are businesses that are with minimal structure or basic structure. Some of them that are in survival mode, or they are just in basic mode or a little bit developing. One key thing for us again is the fact that there is still this connection between the business owner and the business, or the entrepreneur that starts the business and the business in a way. And the focus is to look at the impact of the pandemic on the dynamic capabilities of these businesses. And dynamic capability simply speaks to how businesses are able to leverage or to remain sustainable and grow despite constant change in their environment, their economic environment or social environment, how they're able to respond, sense opportunities and seize opportunity despite that frequent change. Again, our focus is to look at the entrepreneurial psychology. So what does how has the pandemic affect the psychology of the entrepreneur, and also to look at the business model. Are they changing their business model? How has it what's the impact on their business model? But then one key thing in this entire thing is that we sought to collect data from about 20 small SMEs. I mean, those small micro business owners or manager. And this is where the problem is. Speaking from previous experience I had researching small businesses, it's really been a big issue collecting data from small businesses. And so I would like to create the contest here. So you can see these two boxes, a small business owner or small business owners and the researcher. And the idea is to collect field data. Now, we are not interested in just going about collecting data that are not reliable or that are not accurate. So the completeness and consistency of this data is ultimate importance to us even as we collect the data. And again, we found that mainly the common approach or instrument you use is to use questionnaire, and then so it means you have to go survey or you want to interact with them through interview or through focus group session. So collecting field data from small business owners or managers is really difficult. And so what are the hindrances? One of them is the trust issue and suspicion. So when you come to them, and I think this is born out of the environment, the context, and then the Nigerian environment or the African environment as a whole. So the trust issue, especially when it's coming from the academia, so there has been a lot of suspicion about the relevance of the research is coming out from the AI institution and what impact it's making on businesses. And so suspicion is one of the things we had to deal with. And then the second one is the preconceived opinion and resentment. So sometimes they just feel that you've collected some money and then you're just out there to just, collect data and then without providing commensurate value. So there is this general resentment, and they've got different opinions about it. So sometimes even when they decide to give you the data, you may not have, so the completeness, accuracy, reliability of such data often can be put into question. So another barrier is the standard ethical approaches. So the university or the academia will say, these are the ways you need to go about it. And I've had a number of my colleagues talk about informed consent, so there are structures around how you need to conduct this research. You need to have certain section in the informed consent. You need to have some form of ethical approval. Somebody need to approve it, and then you need to read the consent to them and obtain their consent before you even go ahead to collect the data. So these generally are the barriers we face. And this is more intense when you are speaking to small businesses or entrepreneurs. One, because they are pressed of time, they've got all the suspicion. So the question is, how do we traverse data collection barriers researchers encounter when researching small and micro businesses? So the focus actually is based on the data collection, aspect of research. And what is our approach? So we actually had two tranches. So we could call it two sections or two batches. So I think batch might be the right word. So we had two batches of data collection. And then the focus is to look at the sampling, the instrument, the recruitment, and the informed consent, how they played out within these two batches. So you can look at one as perhaps a control group, if you want to call it that. So within the first one, which I've called the first tranche, it was a convenience sampling, and this is about the circle of influence of the researcher. So a small business owner, or an entrepreneur, and then you invite the entrepreneur, you send email to them, contact your email and all that, and then you ask them if they're happy with it to also extend that invitation to people within their circle of influence. And so the instrument is just about 20 questions, and it's online questionnaire. The normal questionnaires put into different sections, usually a section of 10, depending on how the questions are segmented. Mainly you ask about their background, demographic information, and all that. And again, it's about the word of mouth. I've said that about the convenience. And then in terms of the informed consent, this is the standard consent where they have to read. It's formal. They have to know why you are collecting the data, what you want to use the data for, who is funding the project, and all that. But then we have the second tranche again, which use convenience sampling. But this time around, we approach the thought leaders within that small business segment. So there are people within that sector that the small business owners or entrepreneurs look towards as thought leaders who perhaps they are going to listen to. So we engage them and then we ask them, how do we get across to these small business owners? What are the best approach? Okay, in fact, at some point they also had to help us look at the questionnaire such that is going to be coined in a way that the small business owners will understand. I mean, in a way that speaks to them or in their language. So the questions also remain the same. But this time around, instead of using word of mouth, email, and social media. So social media in the context of the first tranche is about people within the researchers, social media, followership and all that. But this time around, we focused on independently on social media engagement. So we're looking at ads, videos, flyers, and all that. So everyone participating in that research doesn't really have any contact or any connection whatsoever with the researcher. And then in terms of informed consent, we changed this a little bit so that we change that consent into what we call terms and conditions. So again, against the normal way of putting out informed consent, we call it terms and condition, and it is at the end of answering those questions, not before. Again, that is what you will see in some business, what's it called now, when you're trying to sign some contracts and all that. So this in a way aligns closely more with what the business will understand. But then the question is whether that aligns with our understanding or the conventional understanding of ethics and how research should be conducted. So what are the outcomes? Now, in the first tranche, we had 24 responses in 6 weeks. But in this case, we didn't track the number of clicks. So I think this is more of an omission, and the fact that the platform we use did not allow us to track the number of clicks. But in the second tranche, within 3 weeks, we had 54 responses, and then we tracked the clicks using bit.ly, and we got more than 251 clicks. And again, we had significant engagement across the social media platform, especially Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So again, these are just some of the evidences. So this looks at the plans or the timelines for that second tranche. So we had something like a plan of, so we looked at this more as a product, see that data collection more as a product, and like we want to launch that product. So we try to engage with those small businesses. We try to offer solutions to their problem. We ask them questions. We tell them why we want to do what we're doing. We had more like live Instagram sessions, with those thought leaders within the small business environment. We got their feedback. So this just talked about the plan. And here you can see the number of clicks as we track them on bit.ly. You can see the number of followership that we've got on Instagram, on what's it called now, LinkedIn. And then this is also on Instagram. And one again important thing that we did was to, because again from the feedback we got from one of our thought leaders, that we need to engage them, we need to provide some form of feedback. So we have some kind of newsletter that we coined in the way that they will understand, such that they see value, from participating in the research. And so, looking at this, what are the lessons, reflections and lessons that we learned from this process? And then this specifically try to answer that question: how could we traverse data collection barriers researchers encounter when researching on small and micro businesses? So I've got about 3 lessons and reflections. So the first one is that we need to communicate research in business terms. Okay, so the first is we need to clarify value. What is a need for me? Because they're going to ask. Even when they don't ask, they want to know, why am I participating? Why is it that I'm not wasting my time, with you, or filling your questionnaire or your survey? When they don't have that value, then they just tend to give you any information. And then the other is that we need to leverage on the goodwill of the business thought leaders. And then the third is that we need to balance the term and conditions, versus informed consent in this instance. And then the second thing is that we need to seek
15 minutes.
Oh,
so you know.
Okay. This is the last slide. We need to seek to build trust relationship. So the question is, you need to ask the small business owners, how could we be of help? Even when you know what the problems are. Again, you need to humanize the project. Put a face behind the project. They want to see faces. They want to see names. And then you need to consistently try to provide feedback. And then the third thing is the need to leverage technology, create user-friendly data collection instruments such that monitor user responses and engagement, use ads if possible. And one more important thing is to try to build a community, especially within this set of people. They want to have more relationship than just collecting data and then you run off we are data. And those are the things that we learned from our engagement thus far. We're in the third phase of the project now, where we're engaging, having one-on-one sessions with these small business owners to understand their business model. And so we're also making use of some very interesting and creative method, which I may not be able to discuss here now. And that's about all. Thank you very much. I wouldn't know if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That was brilliant. Thank you. Really interesting. They're also interesting, and I'm sure we could have so much discussion. I'm conscious now we have 5 minutes left of the session. Do you want to stop sharing your screen a minute, and then we can see face